You today.
You know, it was a good weekend, but it's a Monday, so as bad as well as I can be, I guess.
Let's keep this dumb intro thing going. I got a question for you, all right, man?
Let's go.
What grade would you go back to if you could go back to any grade, K through 12? You know, we both work in school, and this one just kind of popped in my head, and I was kind of having a walk, and I'm like, you know what? This is a good one. I want to see what he thinks.
Dude, I think it's got to be senior year, right? Like, you can drive, you had some responsibility, you were all excited about being an adult in life, but you still had all them kid responsibilities.
It's a good pick.
I think, I mean, as much fun as kindergarten, all that stuff.
That's exactly right.
I still want something like that.
Treats.
Did you take any naps as a teenager?
No.
And I mean, I don't know, like I got to take, if I'm looking at it as a whole, right? Like, I mean, like as a kindergartner, you didn't have sports, you didn't have any responsibility, freedom, you know.
Oh, come on. As a kindergartner, you're playing sports. That's all you did.
Listen, I also like going to the bathroom by myself. I don't want to go back to kindergarten, okay?
Hey, man, it's your answer. I think it's a good one. I'm not saying it's a bad one.
Welcome into another edition of the Varsity Locker Room.
We're back.
That's right.
Halfway done.
Week 5 come and gone. We are halfway to the postseason already. It was another great week. We had a lot of big games. We're going to start first with our Frickers Alignment game of the week recap. And I think, I mean, it's been the biggest game of the year so far, I think. And it lived up to the hype. Disappointedly, my MAC pick went down to the Coldwater Cavaliers. It's 24-21. They lost on a game-winning 31-yard field goal with 1:40 left to go. So they still had an opportunity, but Coldwater with a big defensive stand held out. That's a big win because you can't imagine a world where you could potentially win the MAC with even one loss. Like, it just doesn't exist.
Fact.
And so Coldwater now tied up top with Marion Local as they sit undefeated in the MAC.
What a battle.
At Coldwater, they were led by Malice Potketter. He led that rushing attack, 121 yards, 2 touchdowns, only 15 carries. Your guy, you've been on him all year, man. Balin Blockberger, another efficient game, right? Like, he doesn't always have the most gaudy numbers, but I think him and Steffi, the biggest thing I see out of them is their efficiency. Blockberger, 13-17, only 14 incompletions, only completed 117 yards, but did have a TD, and that's what Coldwater needed in this game, right? Like, they didn't need him to have 400 yards. They just needed him to protect the ball, and he did that.
Yeah, I just look at Steffi's numbers. You know, I think as we were prepping this year and getting everything to go, I just didn't realize this kid runs the ball so much too.
He's leading the conference. He's the top rusher in the MAC. It's nuts. Caleb Schroyer, he had that touchdown for Coldwater. As you mentioned, Steffi had a great game. Brogan was 17-29, 202 yards. He rushed 18 more times for 72 yards and a touchdown. Connor Smeezing, right behind him, he chipped in 2 rushing touchdowns of his own. And then Dylan Heitkamp, 5 receptions, 89 yards. He led all receivers on both sides. Minster put up a fight. We said they had like this chip on their shoulder. You know, I really did have a feeling about this Minster team. And even though maybe it looks like they're out of that MAC, I can tell you what, Minster is not going to be an easy out. This is a team that is destined to go far in tournament play.
Yeah, we were driving down to Fort Loramie, and as we cruised through Minster, man, I was just seeing they were all getting ready, doing their warm-ups, and you could just feel it in the air, man. What a great evening. Thank gosh, I don't think it's going to be as warm for the rest of these weeks, but that was the only thing you could feel, too, is the heat coming through the car while I'm turning my air conditioning down even further. But I mean, just a fabulous game, super exciting for both programs. And you know, the sad part about those is someone has to lose.
Yep, and that would have been Minster. So Coldwater, they stay undefeated. Minster drops their first one of the season, and that leads us to this week's game of the week. And we looked at the slate, man, and we came up with a good one in the NWC. I think when the season started, we looked at the NWC and said there's 3 teams really that I think everybody consistently thought was going to be the 3 teams that maybe end up with that crown. It was LCC, Bluffton, and Grove. And we get that first matchup this week. It is this week's Frickers of Lima game of the week. We're now for the fall season. Stop by and get appetizers half price after 9 p.m. Perfect for after a ball game, practice, or to end a long work day. LCC comes in 4-1, Bluffton 5-0. A lot going on in this one.
There really is, man. You start unpacking it. You know, Bluffton is heavily favored on the pasture site, favored by 24. LCC leads the overall series, 17 victories, 12 losses, and 1 tie. The first time they played since 2013. I think the big thing here, for these kids is they grew up playing each other. So these kids have all played each other in midgets. Lots of great battles in the history of that back and forth as those kids have went into these years. So they know each other. They're all familiar. LCC has not lost an NWC game. Nate's got that stat rolling, and that's going to be put to the test this week. Bluffton's last win in the series was in 2004. They're currently on a 9-game losing streak to LCC. Bluffton has the top scoring offense in the NWC and the top scoring holding people defensively. It's only 4.3 points per game. Those are some pretty gaudy stats, Nate. I got to tell you.
And, and honestly, when you look at that scoring defense, if you take away one game against Columbus Grove last year, that number still holds true. It's a carryover. They gave up no points in the NWC last year until they got to Columbus Grove, and they're doing the same thing here in the early going. It's really going to be a test for this Thunderbird team here in week 6.
We talked about the T-Birds a lot. Matthew Quatman leading them second in the conference in rushing, averaging about 120 yards per game. He's first in the scoring because he kicks it, he throws it, he runs it, he does a lot of stuff, catches it for the T-Birds. Griffin Stackhouse is second in the league in receiving, 66 yards per game, and is first in yards per catch at 26. So, T-Birds are going to have to circle him, and the T-Birds have had some issues in the secondary. They've really struggled at some points in their cover two, where the teams have been able to find some gaps. So look for Stackhouse to try to find those holes. Offensively, Bluffton is first in total yards and in team rushing yards. They just control it. I mean, so that's going to be a big thing for the T-Birds to be prepared for. And by the way, you're at Bluffton, so hostile environment, going to be a lot of fun. Defensively, Bluffton is first in defensive. They've only allowed the least amount of first downs allowed, total yards allowed, yards rushing allowed, yards passing allowed, and punts forced. So pretty much tie a big bow around. They're pretty good on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, that defense has been phenomenal this year, which, resonates in the fact that they're only giving up 4 points a game, right? Here's my thing with Bluffton, and I had some questions about this team coming in with what they had lost. Had they be able to replace it? They've done a great job. This is a fantastic team. They're scoring a lot. They're scoring quick. But when you look at the schedule, they haven't really been tested yet. They have their schedule is full of teams that have struggled here early in the season.
Right.
LCC is going to be the first true test for the Bluffton Pirates.
Yep.
I think the thing with LCC is that they've been trying to get this offense going. The offense hasn't been as prolific as I think a lot of people have been used to inside that Thunderbird program, and that's been difficult to watch, but was expected. When you're bringing in a new quarterback, there's going to take some learning curves. Thankfully, they've been able to lean on Matthew to get the ball in his hands, and once they kind of shifted to that, things have been going better. But it's still not where I'm sure a lot of T-Bird fans would like to see it.
Yeah, I mean, there's still, I think for the T-Birds, obviously, I'm at every game. There's still a little bit of consistency issues. There's sometimes they don't finish drives. Sometimes they get caught up and kind of, killing a couple of drives with penalties. So, everything, all I would say in regards to, giving you a little insight from the T-Birds, that they have not played their best football yet. But they're going to have to this week. It's the game of the week for a reason, because these two teams are both vying for a conference championship, and this is where one of them will walk out of there probably not being in contention for that. Because I'm with you, there's not going to be a lot of losses in this conference when it comes to the top teams. So
I think you're right. I think the NWC is very much like the MAC in the fact that one loss is not going to win you this conference. I think you got to have a 0 in that loss column to come away as champ. It's going to be a big week. It should be a great game. I'm excited to watch how this one plays out. A lot of scoring against good defense. We know how tough LCC is to grind it out. It's fun that this one is back. I think this was a game that a lot of people missed when it went away in 2013.
Yep.
And joining the conference, this was one of the ones, especially on the football side of things, people circled and was like, hey, it's good to see this matchup back in rotation for sure.
If you're bored on Friday night, you're a football fan, there's a place you can go there in Bluffton. Go get yourself a nice little meal in town and go head over and watch the Pirates and the T-Birds.
That is our Frickers of Lima game of the week. Before we move on, like we do every week, let's take a look at how we think this one may play out. Bluffton, a heavy favorite, 24 points. What do you think? How do you see this one playing out?
I told you I don't pick the T-Birds, so
All right, so you think Bluffton wins by 24? You guys got it here first. Matt Quadman's picking Bluffton, 24-point favorite. We'll see if he covers when it's said and done. I told you guys I would get a prediction out of him before the season was over. I snuck this one in. He didn't think about it before we did it. I knew I'd get it in. I don't think it'll be a 24-point game. I think that I understand why Bluffton is favored like they are, but I do think that if anybody looks at the final score when it's done and sees that it's a 24-point game on either side, they will be shocked. It's going to be Bluffton's first true test. I think it's going to be very important for LCC to come out, and they have to get off to a quick start. The defense has to show Bluffton that we can slow you down.
That's right.
If they do that, I think that this is a very winnable game for LCC. I think if Bluffton comes out firing and they have success on offense right away, it's going to be a long night for the T-Birds.
Yeah, it could be. You could get buried, and then you're going to rely a lot on your offense. So, yeah, I think that's a really good summary, man. Well, let's take off now. Let's move into our conference rundown, brought to you by Stallion Insurance, looking out for you and your family for over 100 years. Top-tier agents who treat you with respect and get you the answers you need. Life, house, home, whatever you need. No mayhem here. The Stallion Insurance will take care of you. All right, let's get in here, man. Nate, let's just jump into NBC. We got Columbus Grove and Delphos. Did I just blend two businesses there? I did mayhem. I think that's the wrong company, isn't it?
Yeah, you had the insurance part right, but
I think I might have blended that.
Yeah,
maybe
I won't say
use them.
They use them.
All right, we're good. All right, either
way, call Stolly. They'll figure it out.
There we go. That's what we need to do. Thanks for that close. We had Columbus Grove 65-6 over Delphos Jefferson. We got Alex Meyer, their quarterback, 4 for 8, 41 yards, 3 TDs, and 1 interception.
Bad news coming out of there, right? You're telling me?
I heard that he might have an injury and he might not be available this week.
I saw the stat line, and honestly, I just assumed it was because the game got out of hand. Not a lot of reason for him to be throwing the football. I didn't even think that it was injury related. So.
Yep. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I just kind of heard that through hearsay. I don't know if it's 100% true. Let's hope it's not. But Barraza did what Barraza does: 15 rushes, 200 yards, 2 TDs. Brody McClure 9 rushes, 71 yards, and a TD. Trevin Baxter 4 catches, 58 yards, and 2 TDs. And I didn't get a bunch of Grove's or Jefferson stats, so Grove pretty much was in control of this the whole time. Spencerville 55, Bluffton 55, Spencerville 7. Sophomore quarterback Tate Gisigi threw for 4 touchdown passes in the first half to pace the onslaught, and senior receiving running dual threat Griffin Stackhouse scored 5 touchdowns.
So let me help you with the quarterback, right? Because from what I'm told, everybody gets his name wrong.
Oh, okay.
I was very fortunate when I did the Bluffton Delphos Jefferson game a couple weeks ago with WSN.
Yep.
I was doing it with a Bluffton guy.
Okay.
He's like, hey, this is how you say it. Okay.
Ooh, okay.
So it's Giese.
Oh, okay.
Giese. Okay, so it's Tate Giese. That's how I was told to say it. That's how I said it the whole broadcast. Nice. If I have it wrong, Bluffton faithful, go ahead and shoot me a message. But that's how I was told you pronounce that.
Appreciate that, brother. Let's move on then. So takes Bluffton to 4-0, and again, I did not have a ton. I got that out of the Bluffton newspaper. They did not have a ton of Spencerville stats, so I apologize that for Bearcats if I missed something. We've always told you, hit us up, and we have some.
We
fans
did absolutely. We'll get to that.
We appreciate that fan information. We will get to that. I don't want to be a spoiler, but LCC headed down 66 to Fort Loramie, and it was LCC walking away with a 28-21 victory. T-Birds open up with a 6-minute, 80-yard drive all on the ground to take a 7-0 lead. Continue to roll 21-7 at half. Actually gave up kind of a tough pass play at the right before the half. So things were looking positive, and I'll tell you what, we talked about this earlier. Fort Loramie had a very strong schedule walking into this, and I'll tell you what, they never got rattled, Nate. It was interesting. They were kind of doing a little balance before that, and I don't know. Obviously, they're kind of buried. They went all air, and that really caused some issues for the T-Birds. They got it close, 28-21. Fort Loramie then gets the ball with about 1:40 to go, and they get it on the 25-yard line. Okay, T-Birds are dropping into their cover 2, hit a crossing route. And just between the linebackers, and little Michael Quabbin comes up and stops him. I mean, he said it was on the 3. I'll tell you what, when you watch the video, it's on the 1.
Ooh.
I mean, and I was on, I'm always field level because if I sit too high, it just messes with my brain. So I sit field level, and I'm like, all I saw was Coach Balty's reaction.
He just stopped him dead.
I mean, I mean, there was another kid coming to help, but
But he didn't go into the end zone.
No,
long story
it
short,
was close. Right? I mean, it was close. Even when I read both articles, I mean, they even said like very close. But again, just shows how hard they play. Parker had three TDs. He also ran for one. Gerdeman had a reception.
Hey, there you go, Dakota.
Yeah, got
normally his name's around there on the defensive side of things, getting into that offensive side.
A nice little play, little fake or anything. Anyway, Gabe Hart threw for over 200 yards, 3 TDs. I was so impressed with their ability to just not give up. They had a couple things go their way in the second half, and Maurer and Hoying, just shout out to those two kids. Those are his favorite targets, and he got him the ball. He got him the ball in space. I think it's an understatement sometimes when you watch high school kids who are able to stay in the pocket and maintain that presence and then find people in open space in zones.
Because it's not done. So when you can see a quarterback at this level do that, I mean, it is something special for sure.
Yeah. So there was a bunch of big swings of momentum in that game, and obviously it was very close. Also, shout out. I'll tell you what, I was at Allen East, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have a ton of fans. I mean, what I told you, beautiful night, ton of fan support. Fort Laramie, they had about 75 kids. I mean, football, I know they haven't had football forever. It ain't going anywhere. I mean, there were children upon children, and they were never in the way, super respectful. But when you looked out, all you saw were kids playing backyard football. It was unbelievable.
I like it.
I even had one T-Bird fan made a little comment like, would you think we're allowed to let our kids play on the varsity baseball field? I mean, they were everywhere. You could stuff them everywhere. One kid was walking by without a shirt. I was like, his dad's like, put his shirt on. I'm like, it's hot enough. I wish I could take my shirt off.
Hey, listen, you got to think they're excited, right? Being back in a conference. I mean, it has to be a big deal for them.
Yeah, it was just really cool to watch. Let's move on now to Allen East Crestview. Man, did you see this?
So I saw early, and it looked like it was going to be out of hand. I was like, all right. So I honestly stopped paying attention to it until I saw the final. I was like, ooh, I clearly missed something.
I mean, so Allen East jumps up to a 21-0 lead. That's where you're probably like thinking, okay, it's pretty much over. And then the Knights just come back and battle back. And me and you didn't even realize they're on their backup quarterback.
Yeah.
So Penix is out. Huxley Gross throws 2 TDs and had a couple running TDs to make it 35-21. So the Knights go up in the third. Allen East comes back with back-to-back scoring drives, but they miss an extra point. So now we're looking at 35-33. Both teams then continue to score, and we got a 41-41 tie. Crestview gets the ball back, and they turn it over. Have a tough turnover. I didn't read how it was, if it was a fumble or a pick. Allen East gets a short field. They capitalized. They win 48-41. Gross finished with
there's no way. Is that right?
It's wrong. It's 15 for 29 for 241 and 5 touchdown passes and 1 interception. And Keegan Jones, I think he had 3 or 4 TD and a couple INTs. But I mean,
I just looked at that. I saw 5 of 29 for 241 and 5 touchdowns. I'm like, wow. He figured it out.
I mean, shout out to Allen East, man. They battled and battled and battled.
And that's big, right? Back-to-back losses that they've had. They lost a tough one last week in conference. Couldn't afford to lose another one. Crestview's had a good season. We've talked about them. But then the Knights too, man, being on a backup QB. I'll tell you what, that's a game right there. I didn't see that one going that way.
Me either.
Especially with that many points being scored.
The interesting part is, and I know this isn't like the pros, so we can't pick up on this, but we're really starting to pick up a bunch of injuries.
Yeah.
And, my heart goes out to all these kids that are putting all this energy and time in, and just, take your time, get your healthy, get your treatment, do what you got to do. But we're seeing week in and week out, Nate, how injuries are affecting all of these programs.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's move on to the Western Buckeye League. Let's get the painful one out of the way first. We're going to look at Defiance and Shawnee. The Bulldogs went over to Shawnee, and they pretty much dominated from start to finish. They opened the game with a 95-yard kickoff return, and the scoring pretty much didn't stop after that. They ended up winning 43-7. Anthony Wilder had 7 carries for 119 yards, had a touchdown. Noah Gomez, he had 2 rushing touchdowns, along with passing for a touchdown, and they did that right before halftime. They did a little sweep with the running back with Gomez, and he goes to take it out. It was almost the exact play that Defiance used to beat St. Mary's, just on the other side and with a different running back, but it's that halfback pass. Got the Shawnee defenders looking into the backfield, over top, wide open, took it 50 yards for a touchdown right before half. Kind of was that nail in the coffin at that point, because that was on the back of an interception too, right around midfield. So Defiance looking really good. Brady Borton, he had 2 catches. Both were for TDs. He was actually on the other side of that Noah Gomez touchdown. He went for 94 yards. Shawnee struggling offensively right now. Only 183 yards of offense. Just 53 of those were on the ground. Cole Sunderland, he had the touchdown for Shawnee. And that when he scored that, it made it 14-7. And we're like, all right, we've answered and we've kind of weathered this storm from the kickoff return. And, you take the kickoff return away. This is a 7-7 game, trying to look for all the positives. And then Defiance just, they bowed their neck and it got out of hand. Bath at Elida. Elida has been struggling. They had lost 3 straight coming into this one. Bath on the other side had won 3 straight. We had talked about how prolific the offense from Bath had been. They didn't disappoint.
Nope.
They scored 62 points. What we hadn't been talking about was the offense from Elida. 56 points. This was a 56-56 game coming down to the final seconds of the game before Bath was able to score. They come away with the 62-56 win in a game that felt like it took 3 days because of all of the scoring. Zach Welsh led the Wildcats yet again. So many. He was 19 of 30 for 249 yards. He had 3 touchdowns. He also rushed 18 times for 106 yards and 2 touchdowns. Mikey Hale, he rushed for 233 yards and 2 touchdowns on 25 carries, including an OHSAA tying run of 90
scattered down that sideline. I saw that on the Masters.
I talked to some people that were there, including the broadcasters, and they said that, the OHSAA is never going to give you half a yard, but it was every bit 99 and a half yards. That he was not on the 1 yard line when he did that.
Boy, Mikey Hale. Good job, bud.
Jackson Foster led the pass catching for Bath. He had 6 catches, 104 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Logan Markley, 3 catches, 71 yards of his own. He also had a touchdown.
Nice.
For Elida in the loss, Amari Wash did just about everything that a player could do. He had over 300 total yards of offense, including 4 catches for 113 yards and 2 TDs. He rushed for a touchdown. He had an 80-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. He blocked a punt. And he added 10 tackles on defense. He was all over the place for the Bulldogs. Tough loss for them, but I'll tell you this much. It seems like maybe they've got some things figured out. Hopefully that spark has kind of come back into that team. So before we move on, though, we talked about we always want feedback, right? We want you guys talking with us. We got it, so we got to shout it out, right?
Let's do it.
We got to give some love to that offensive line. We had a fan reach out, because one of the things that's the hardest thing for us is getting offensive line, defensive stats, things like that, right?
Yeah.
So we got some names sent to us, and after protecting enough to let your team have 62 points, that offensive line from Bath deserves some love. I want to start with number 75, Ethan Stevens. I have some videos that were sent to me of what he was doing on Friday night against Elida, and I'm going to put him up on our Facebook page for people to check out. The kid seemed like he was unstoppable. Watching him get to the second level, carrying blocks, blocking at the second and third level to keep runs going.
Man.
He was pulling, making holes. He was doing a fantastic job. Great job by him. Number 56, George Rope, doing a great job out there. Number 59, Richard Rope, and number 55, Isaiah Murphy.
Rope-a-dope.
That O-line from Bath has been phenomenal. They have been nothing but an offensive juggernaut here to begin this season, especially after that first game loss to New Bremen. They have just been pouring points on teams, and it starts up front. You know that, Matt. We
love that fan interaction, all of them points.
Yeah, without that O-line, they're not getting these things done. And, it doesn't matter how good Zach Welsh is, doesn't matter how good their receivers are. They got to have time.
As a Browns fan, I can tell you the O-line's pretty important. You watched the game yesterday. Holy.
So good job by them, those young men up front. We appreciate the fan reaching out, sending some love for that O-line. We want to make sure we give it as well.
Wildcat Bulldog action next.
Game of the Bulldogs, and this was a tight one. I don't think a lot of people saw this one coming either. Salina walks away with a 38-35 win. Kenton on the back-to-back ends of nail-biters that they've come up on the wrong side of, unfortunately. Salina's Bobby Morris, he rushed for 215 yards and 2 TDs. By the way, Bobby Morris is their quarterback, not their running back. He was 9 of 13 for 127 yards and 2 touchdowns. John Lutz, he went for 21. He had 21 rushes, had 144 yards and a touchdown. Caden Wirtz, 3 catches, 63 yards for Salina. On the other side of the ball for Kenton, Corbin Johnson just been doing what
Wow.
he does. Corbin Johnson, 22 of 31, 375 yards. He threw for 4 touchdowns. He rushed for another one. He did have an interception in that one. Zane Perkins led the way for the receivers for Kenton. He had 8 catches, 179 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Zane has really been coming on the last couple of weeks. This Kenton offense is primed, and I'm going to talk more about Kenton later in this one. I like where this team is going despite the record.
All right.
And wrapping up the Western, no, I'm sorry, we still have 2 more games. We're going to start with Walpock and Van Wert.
Walpock did what Walpock does.
Yep, they continue to win. They stay undefeated on the season. They knock off Van Wert 35-14. Caleb Moyer, 17 of 22, 227 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also added a rushing touchdown. Jarrett Mullen, 5 rushes, 133 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Grant Stauffer, the big tight end, had 3 catches for 91 yards and a TD. Caden Page, their top receiver, he had 7 catches of his own, 83 yards, and a touchdown.
Spreading it around.
Briston Wise, he was pretty much the offense for Van Wert. He rushed for both of their TDs, getting 133 yards on the ground. Through the air, he did struggle, though, and normally that Van Wert passing offense doesn't struggle, but here the last couple of weeks, it's been a challenge. He was 13 of 20 for just 100 yards. He had an INT, and Micah Cowens, he led the way for Van Wert with 6 catches and 50 yards. And then finally for the Western Buckeye League, Ottawa Glandorf and St. Mary's. Raise your hand if you thought that Ottawa Glandorf was going to outgain St. Mary's and that St. Mary's would still win this game.
Really?
Nobody's hands going up.
Wow.
And that's exactly what happened. Ottawa Glandorf gained 309 yards of total offense. St. Mary's only had 168, but St. Mary's found a way, and they come away with the 21-16 victory.
Man, maybe they put a little, OG put a little way to stop St. Mary's.
Maybe. So for St. Mary's, Colton Mayberry led the rushing attack. He had 58 yards and a touchdown on 15 carries. Their leading rusher, Dominic Osborne, he was held to just 40 yards on 13 carries and a touchdown. Peyton Kuhlman had himself a game for sure. 248 yards, a touchdown. He did have 2 interceptions, though. He added a rush touchdown. Dagan Miller, 6 catches for 102 yards. Dane Dooling, 3 catches, 64 yards. And Ethan Metzger, 4 catches for 54 yards and a touchdown. I think that was the first time we've been able to talk about Ethan Metzger, so wanted to make sure I got him in there. And, yeah, I'll tell you what, Ottawa Glandorf, for the season they had last year and how it started this season, this is a team that just continues to surprise people. I don't think anybody would have thought that this was a 5-point game. And then to find a way to limit St. Mary's rushing attack and to outgain them offensively, them Titans, they found something over there for sure.
Good for them. Good for them. All right, let's move into the MAC, Nate. We got Marion Local versus New Bremen. Marion rolled in and rolled out and rolled off in 53 in a row and counting. That's Knopf was 7 for 14, 88 yards, had 1 pick. Victor Hoschel had 4 catches for 61 yards. Parker Hess had 9 rushes, 190 yards, 4 TDs. Cam Eifert had 5 rushes, 39 yards, and a TD. New Bremen and Gavin Dickey was 9 for 13, 94 yards, and a pick. And Rogan Muther had 14 rushing yards and a TD. He also had 5 catches for 56 yards. So that was that opening game for the MAC. Moving on to Delphus St. John's and Fort Recovery. Delphus St. John's wins 27-14. Drew Boggs leads his team, the quarterback, to a victory, throwing it and running it. Crucial special teams play in this game, Nate. I read about on a kickoff after Delphus went up 20-6, where Fort Recovery fumbled it, and Delphus St. John's got a little scoop and score, a little magic on the special teams, and that really kind of closed the game out. Boggs finished 9 for 12, 104 yards, 9 rushes for 122 and 3 TDs. Riley Mueller had 14 rushes, 54 yards. Tyler Lindemann, 3 catches for 30 yards. Reese Wendell, tough day. He had 3 for 7 and a pick. He did have 23 rushes, however, for 162 and a TD. And Ethan Hartnagel also ran one in for Fort Recovery. Next up, we move to St. Henry at Anna. 3-1, 1-3, and Anna comes out with a victory. Scoreless after 1 quarter. Anna rips off 14 points in the second quarter. One from the older, or Alex Shappy, the TD quarterback, threw a TD to Oddfetter, and second was actually a pick six by Zach Osborne. That took them up 14-0 in the second quarter. St. Henry battles back, gets 2 TDs in the second half, and tries to mount a comeback, but Anna closed out. So a really close, tight game there. I don't think anybody was really surprised by that. That was kind of a coin flip game, and Anna gets the nice victory there. Parkway versus Versailles, 37-12. Versailles wins this game. This one was close early on, 7-6.
This is a surprise too.
And then the Tigers just jumped on the gas, and honestly, I couldn't hardly find any stats for this. So, but it was 34-6 at half, and they closed out 37. Like I said, 37 points there total. Coldwater was the game of the week, so we've already got that one, and that moves us on to the NWCC.
Yep, Elgin, they traveled over to Corey Rawson, and this game was close early, but eventually Elgin got on it, and they knock off Corey Rawson 29-3. North Baltimore, they went to Waynesville Goshen, and the Tigers get back into the win column.
Big win.
Yeah, they knock off North Baltimore 49-14, and that's a big win for Waynesfield, as we've well documented that they've had the long win streak that comes to an end, and then they lost 2 straight. So you wanted to get that thing going back in the right direction, and they did that with this victory. Perry traveled over to Hardin Northern. Hardin Northern sits atop the NWCC, tied with a couple other teams right now. And this was a game where I wanted to take a time to talk about this, only because of our friend Scott Jones, and I know he played for Pete Bruno, and he talks about Bruno all the time. Hardin Northern actually renamed their field after Coach Bruno.
Oh, that's cool.
And, a lot of people, including Scott, have said, Coach Bruno had 5 plays in this playbook. 4 of them are running plays. That was all that he needed. And Coop is doing his own style of Bruno ball right now at Hardin Northern. They had 434 yards of total offense, all coming from just 2 guys. Nolan Hobson with 214 rushing yards and 4 TDs. He also added 12 receiving yards to give him his total amount. Xander Wilson, he was 5 of 10 for 104 yards in the air with 2 touchdowns, and then also accounted for 116 yards on the ground on 14 carries. They just continue to run that ball, grind things out, put up big numbers, and that helped them to the 38-14 victory over Perry. For Perry, QB Hunter Scott, he was 11 of 17 for 176 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Boy.
And Isaiah McFadden ran for 58 yards on 12 carries. Moving on, Upper Scioto Valley, they stayed undefeated in conference play as well, as they knocked off Ridgedale. Maddox Underwood had 170 total yards and 4 TDs. They win 38-8. And then Ridgemont on Saturday took on Mount Pillier, and they won big 53-28.
Knock those locomotives off the track.
All right, looking at the Spartans, right, as we get out of the NWCC and into some of our other, the English language can be very, very tricky at times. Looking ahead at some of our other area teams, Lima Senior, they took on Toledo Bowser. They opened play in the Toledo City League, and the number 1 passing offense, not in the city.
Did they throw it?
Not in the state, but in the country, was added again.
Oh, they threw it. Oh,
they threw it a couple of times, as Janias Hall, boom, 20 of 37, 515 yards, 6 touchdowns through the air. He added a rush touchdown to bring his total for the game to 7. Hall connected with 6 different receivers. This time it was led normally by Boog Wilson. This time, no, it's Khalik Walsh. Walsh had 4 catches, 173 yards, and 2 TDs. But don't worry, Boog Wilson got in on it as well. 7 catches, 165 yards, and a touchdown. Lima Senior, 5-0 for just the 6th time in school history. They win 51-14.
We're back.
The Ada Bulldogs. How about them Bulldogs? They knock off Macomb.
I saw this one coming.
They won, and they won going away 35-20. They knock off Macomb. Levi Green rushed for 246 yards and a touchdown. He also was 10 of 15 through the air for 148 yards and 2 touchdowns. Kane Fisher rushed for 139 yards he had 139 yards from scrimmage. He got it done on his feet and through the air, and he managed to put in 3 touchdowns for his troubles. The Bulldogs, they are looking up mighty good this season, Matt, liking what we're seeing over in Ada. And Findlay Finley has had a rough start to the season, coming off of a tough loss last week against Oregon Clay. They get back into the win column. Defense was the name of this one, though, as the Finley Trojan defense, which has been much maligned here to begin this year, they held this one scoreless until the final 3 minutes. Layden Eccleberry was 12 of 20 for 159 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then a week after going for over 300 receiving yards, Jacob Ragland was held to just 119. Just a small night for that guy.
It's just a little small 100-yard day.
Finley, they did win 21-7 to try to get things going back in the right direction for the Trojans.
All right, man. Well, let's move on to players of the week. This week, this kid could have got it a couple of times for us. I know he's been in the mix. So guess what, young man? You are representing Lima Senior Janias Hall. Let's see. You did it. You did his stats already, but let's just repeat it again. The young man was 20 for 37, 515 yards, 6 touchdown passes. He also rushed for a TD.
Yeah, can I tell you what? Before I know you got a bunch more stats you want to cover with him because they're super impressive. But one of the things that I've heard when people have been talking about the senior team, if they want to and they try to maybe knock on this offensive output, is they're throwing the ball 50, 60 times a game, and they're doing. He only threw the ball 37 times. There's a lot of other games we go through here. Quarterbacks are throwing the ball 29, 30. Like, he's right in line with him, and no one's even coming close to 500 yards passing.
Excuse me. So his passing yards, Nate, so far for this year, stop me if I got this wrong, but passing yards 2,342. He's got 28 passing TDs. He's passing 468 yards per game. He has 141 completions out of 229 attempts. He has 7 throwing. That can't be right. Oh, that 7 interceptions. I'm not talking about negative stuff. Take that out of that shit. We're not talking about that. Anyway, kid's just having a year, brother, and honestly, you and I both know part of it is a system. It's a system where they're going to air it out, but the bottom line is you still got to throw it. You still got to put it in spots. You got to get it to your guys.
100%, without a doubt.
You watch the highlights. It's not like he's throwing into open windows that are huge. So,
and he's still making the throws. It's not like he's checking down for 2 yards and his receivers are going 80 yards every single time. He has to throw catchable balls downfield, and that's exactly what he does.
Guess what you're getting, Janias? Little fabric from the old podcast.
That's right, man. T-shirts coming your way. And I know you said you weren't talking about negative things when it comes to these interceptions, but listen, he has 7. 4 of them came in one game, and I think that was the game where he had 600 yards passing, where they were throwing it all over the place. So yeah, it says he has 7 for the year, but over half of them were in one game. Other than that, he has done a nice job of taking care of the football when necessary.
Stud.
Moving on to my pick this week, and we set a little bit of precedence, a little history here with this one, right? We have always picked a player from a team that has won their game, but I thought with the effort that Amari Wash had put into the game against Bath and the way that game played out, I thought that he was more than deserving. He had
100%.
332 total yards of offense, 4 total touchdowns. He had an 80-yard kickoff return. He blocked a punt, 10 tackles, all over the field in a game that wasn't decided till the final seconds. If it wasn't for his efforts, Elida's not in that one to the very end. He did absolutely everything you could ask a player to do. Amari had a huge game. A huge shout out to him.
Congrats,
he is my pick. Very, very well deserved. So we'll make sure that we get T-shirts out to both Janias and to Amari. And actually, a little breaking news here, depending on when you listen to this podcast. I'm sitting down and I'm going to talk to Amari Wash on Tuesday night. We'll have that interview up on our YouTube page, have a chance to talk to him, how the Bulldog season is going and how things look moving forward. So excited to talk to him here.
Yeah, we're going to be changing stuff up for you guys. We'll still drop the show, but we'll also be kind of piecemealing this a little bit. We finally got a YouTube channel up and running, and we're able to get a nice interview last week with Welsh. We'll get an interview this week. We're still trying to figure out, get a couple officials on here, get some information from them, and we're just trying to grow it, keep getting you guys as much information. And in that vein, let's move to the previews. NWC, we got Grove and Allen East. Baraz in the O-line coming in, Mays leading them. They look to control the line of scrimmage here. Allen East continues to average over 30 points, but can they stop the Bulldogs? That's going to be a big deal. Grove is predicted to win by 7 touchdowns. We've already covered Bluffton and LCC. Next up, Crestview heads to Jefferson. And we don't know if Penix is going to be back or not, but this has to be a week where Jefferson's circling to kind of get back and get their things going. That Pasture has this only has a few touchdowns. Favorite for for them, and obviously they're going to have to control the passing game if Jefferson wants to stay close in this one. Fort Loramie, 2-3 versus Spencerville, 3-2. Hart and his duo receivers will take to the air and really kind of put all kinds of pressure on the Bearcats this week. Carter Orr and company will have a big game. They got to get that winning taste back in their mouth. Fort Loramie's favored by, I think, 16 points in this one, 17, something like that. So I don't know. They got some interesting stuff going on in this game. I think this one's going to be a fun game to watch as you're looking weekend, or I'm sorry, you're refreshing your WSN app or whatever app you use to check in.
Yeah, for sure. Moving ahead into the Western Buckeye League, St. Mary's, they're going to travel over to Van Wert. This is a matchup between two of the top three rushing teams in the Western Buckeye League. Let's see. Van Wert, they actually have the top rusher, Briston Wise. He's averaging just about 144 yards a game on the ground. And the third rusher is over on St. Mary's side in Dominic Osborne with 126 yards per carry. So this one, you should see a lot of offense coming from the ground. The thing about Van Wert has been, though, they started off really well. That offense was firing. The last 3 weeks, they've only been able to muster 14 points in each one of those games. They're going to have to find a way to get that offense back going again.
Yep.
St. Mary's, they sit 5th in total offense heading into this one. Van Wert last in the league in turnover margin. They have given the ball away 10 times this season, and they're going to have to be able to hold on to the ball. St. Mary's so opportunistic, and we know how they like to bleed the clock with that run game. It is going to be vitally important they win that turnover game. And then St. Mary's, though, they're coming off a game where they uncharacteristically only had 168 yards of a total offense. However, they did still find a way to win. So if you're St. Mary's, you got to be feeling pretty good going, you know what, even when we get off script, when things don't go well, we're finding ways to win. But maybe some tape coming out of OG that Van Wert can take a look at and see if they can't maybe find the secret to slowing down St. Mary's. Bath at Ottawa Glandorf, an extremely interesting one with two teams that are playing very good. Bath right now sits tied up top the Western Buckeye League standings. They are a 3-point favorite against OG.
Coin flip.
Yep, a very tight one. This will be a matchup between the second-ranked defense and the top-ranked offense in the Western Buckeye League. Bath, they've had over 500 yards of total offense, and that come from behind victory in the final minutes against Elida. This is the second straight week that they had to come from behind, and they had to win in the last minute of a game. They're very, very resilient. OG, they held St. Mary's to those low rushing yards, or total yards like we just talked about, but they did end up coming on the losing end of that one. Despite being so tough on teams, though, for yards per game, OG is just middle of the pack in the points per game. Meaning, OG, they're going to need to win that field position battle, right? Like, what that tells me is they're giving teams short fields. They're holding the yardage down, but they're giving up a lot of points. Well, then you need to get them farther back. Win that field position battle. Make them have to travel farther down the field because your defense can hold up. You just can't keep giving people short field position. So
that's going to be a test this week.
And that is going to be very, very difficult because not only that, they're going to have to find a way to slow down Zach Welsh, who's the second in the league in passing. And we've talked a lot about Zach Welsh over the last couple of weeks.
Gets a little easier for the Indians this week. Huh?
Yeah, and then if you look ahead, unfortunately for Shawnee, they are they're in a rough spot. The offense is struggling at the worst possible time as they're in the middle of playing for the top 5 scoring defenses in conferences. They do not. They are traveling to Walpock.
They're not.
They are not at home.
Short trip.
They leave the friendly confines of Shawnee to travel over to Walpock to take on that Redskin team. Shawnee's offense comes in last in the Western Buckeye League. They're only averaging 17 points per game, and they are facing the top defense. Walpock only giving up 14.5 points per game. The Shawnee defense, they've given up over 40 points in 2 of their last 3 games and are going to need to find a way to get some pressure on Caleb Moyer. Caleb Moyer really coming on, a very good quarterback. Yeah. They got to find a way. If they can slow it down and try to get the ball out of his hands, that they'll give themselves a chance here. Shawnee right now trying to find themselves, hopefully against Walpock, they can get going back in the right direction. Defiance, they take on Kenton as the Defiance team. After starting 0-2, they are on a 3-game winning streak. They've scored 40 points in back-to-back weeks for the first time in over a decade. Damn. That offense is getting ready to go. And despite the record, Kenton could easily be over 500 right now. And I'm going to talk about the reason why here in a little bit. But they've been on the wrong side of back-to-back nail-biters. I would think that we would have a lot of offense in this game. Defiance, they have scored a lot of points lately. We know Kenton can put up a lot of
Yep.
points. This one should be a really good game. I think it's going to be a sneaky game. I think it's going to be a little bit closer than people think.
Are you hinting to something here?
I might be. We'll talk about that.
All right.
And then finally, Salina, they are going to travel to Elida. A game of streaks going in opposite directions. Salina's on a 3-game win streak after a big week by Bobby Morris and John Lutz. On the other side, Elida, they're on a 4-game losing streak. That shootout with Bath, maybe gives them that shot in the arm that they need, and it gets that offense going once again. However, they immediately go up against a very tough task, going against a Salina defense that is only giving up right around 15 points a game. It will not be easy. It'll be a great one to watch, though, and see who comes out on top there.
All right, heading to the MAC, we got Marion Local and Versailles. Guess what, folks? They're both undefeated. Somebody's walking out after this one a loss. Coach Goodwin was quoted in the paper saying that, they're just continuing to get better on both sides of the ball. I mean, just a solid system. We've talked a bunch about them all year. But Versailles is they're not ashamed of this game. They're ready to go. They're 5-0 too, and Marion's got a heavy favorite in this one, but this one's kind of tight in the series. Marion has a 28-23 victory in this, so look for this one to be an interesting one to check out on your apps as you're looking there, unless you're in person. Delphos St. John's 2-3 versus Anna 2-3. Somebody's gonna get 4 losses. Delphos St. John's winning ways, try to get their winning ways as they roll into. As Anna rolls into Stadium Park. Anna's favorite here by 10. And for me, I'll tell you what, Nate, I when I was doing my research for this, I think this really comes down to the defensive side of the ball. St. John's has been able to stop people this year and through injuries and no excuses. And if they can stop Anna, look for them to really possibly come away with a victory.
St. John's has been able to stop everybody other than Marion Local.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a good point. I think
in all fairness, most places aren't able to stop Marion Local.
I think if you let me,
why they are where they are.
I think if you let me finish, I wrote that in there, or did you just steal that from me? Okay,
is it in there?
Yeah, it's in there.
Listen, I'm trying to find the magnifying glass because I'm having a hard enough time reading what I wrote in here.
All right, I know you're old. All right, so that's what that is. I guess we'll just roll that. Nate's right. They did not. They did not stop Marion. So there you go, folks. New Bremen 3-2 versus Fort Recovery 1-4. The Cardinals are at home as the Indians come to town, and Fort Recovery has won 8 of the 28 matchups in this one. So New Bremen's kind of dominated here. The last time that Fort Recovery's won is in 2017. We know Fort Recovery looks to run the ball. I think this one's gonna be a quick game. New Bremen favors the run. Fort Recovery favors the run. I don't think these coaches are going to try to pretty this game up at all. They're going to smash each other in the mouth, and they're going to see who gets in the end zone more times. So for me, it's going to come down to turnovers. I think ball control will be big, and turnovers will be a matchup in this one. Coldwater 5-0 versus Parkway 1-4. Coldwater hosts the Panthers, and this is a huge spread. Coldwater obviously a huge favorite, but the Panthers just got to put four quarters together. Blockberg and company have things going. They seem to be clicking. They survived a tough road win at Minster, and now they got the Panthers coming to town. So we'll see what happens in that one. Minster 4-1. Looking to get that bad taste out of their mouth, and they're heading to St. Henry after taking a loss. Their first loss, they try to get back to work. I'd imagine this senior-laden team is going to be foaming at the mouth to get back on the field.
Yeah, you would think so. Hopefully, there's not any hangover. I mean, because St. Henry, no slouch for sure.
Yeah, I just don't see that. But you're right. I mean, I think this will be a fun game, and St. Henry has a very dominating control in this history of this game. They've won 36 times. Let's get to the NWCC, my man.
Yeah, quickly going through the NWCC. Perry, they're going to take on North Baltimore. Perry look to get back to 500, a matchup where they are currently favored by 20. Waynesfield Goshen, they're going to take on Corey Rawson. Waynesfield Goshen, they got back into the win column. They're going to try to add another one against a Corey Rawson team that is trying to right the ship. Since week one, since the week one victory, for Corey Rawson, they're on a 4-game losing streak, and they've been outscored 126-16. So we're going to see if Corey Rawson can maybe get some things going back in the right direction on their side. Upper Scioto Valley, they are going to travel to Ridgemont. Upper Scioto Valley and Ridgemont. This game is probably the biggest game in the conference. Both teams undefeated, trying to stay up top of the conference. USV on a 4-game win streak, while Ridgemont is on their own 4-game win streak. So somebody's going home as a loss for the first time.
Circle this one for the conference. You called it.
And
who wants that conference championship?
100%. And then the other team that is tied with them, it's a 3-way tie right now, and that's Hard Northern. They're taking on Ridgedale. Hard Northern, they're going to take on a struggling Ridgedale team who is still looking for their first win of the season. We'll see if Nolan Hobson's able to do what he's been able to do all season. He has a prolific start on the ground, and I suspect that is going to continue this week against Ridgedale.
It will.
So I'll tell you what, coming out of this week, the NWC is going to tighten up. You're only going to have mostly
NWCC.
What did I just say?
NWC.
Yeah, and whatever. Throw the other C in there. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. There's 2 of them.
I got you, man.
So the NWCC, you're only going to have 2 teams, most likely up top now undefeated, as that one is starting to close up. So taking a look at some of the other ones, Lima Senior, they got a big one against Woodward. Woodward struggling this year. They're still looking for their first win. Lima Senior, an overwhelming favorite. They're almost a 50-point favorite in this one. Remember, you can go check out all of these lines, all the things that we tell you as far as who are the favorites and all those things. Go to fantastic50.net. You can check out any game you want, any team against any matchup. It's a great website. We use it so much.
Super fun.
Yeah, Drew Pastor does a fantastic job.
And so easy to navigate all that thing.
It's just click, so easy.
Click, go.
You end up in a rabbit hole so quick.
For sure.
Lima Senior, they are 3-0 against Woodward, including a 56-6 win last year. Janias Hall, he continues to lead, not the city, not the state, but the country in passing. Janias Hall having a fantastic season. If Woodward would somehow be able to pull off an upset here, it would by far be the largest upset in the state. It wouldn't even be close, but I got a feeling the Spartans are going to roll. Moving on, Ada, they are 4-1. They take on an Arcadia team, still searching for their first win. Ada, big favorite in this one. They are predicted right now as a 43-point victor. Levi Green looks to be he looks to be only getting better every single week. That kid,
yes, he does. He's looking good.
Yeah, his confidence is through the roof. He's getting it done on his legs. He's getting it done through the air. He is leading that Ada offense. I'll tell you what, them Bulldogs, they are looking right at home in the BVC.
Yes, they are.
And finally, the Findlay Trojans, they take on Springfield. The offense, they're going to look to get back on track against Springfield Holland, a team that they are currently a 39-point favorite against, as the Trojans look to get back to 500.
Go, my man. You are doing a great job. I am so proud of you. Let's get to the picks of the week. This is the worst part of this freaking thing. Yeah, but it's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite sponsors. HP Enterprise is your go-to source for residential rentals. HP Enterprise understands the perfect home is more about what?
Dude, we are struggling with the English language today.
4 walls. All right, let's start again. HP Enterprise understands that the perfect home is about more than 4 walls and a roof. It's about discovering a place you truly feel at home.
Dude, I don't know if it's Monday or what. We are both struggling with the English language, man. It has been rough today.
I don't really care. Just let it rip, kid.
All right. Talking about having a ball. Let's talk about it. 0-3. 0-3. 0-3. Yep. Now, in all fairness, I was only 1-2. We did not do very
we were texting. We actually thought we were both 0-3.
Yeah, I managed to sneak in a save there towards the end, but so not looking great coming into week 6. Unless your name is Nate.
Next year we're going to take spreads out of this, and I'll be way better.
So coming into this week, I am 10-5. Matt, you are 6-9. You are going to need to come up with a big come from behind win here to end this season here, big guy.
Okay, well, it's probably not going to happen.
All right. You want to go first?
I don't care. Yeah.
Wow. What is happening right now? All right.
We'll have to edit that.
Yeah, that'll sound awful.
All right, I'll go first. I see you got, you got me Minster -18 at St. Henry. I mean, I'll take St. Henry in the points.
Really? After all that, you talked about Minster and how they're that senior laden team. And
No, I think they're going to win. I just think it's going to be closer than that. I'm hanging my hat on the one little thing I read, and early on, Coach Goodwin said St. Henry's played them any harder than anybody else has.
You're right. You're right.
You know, St. Henry, if they want to, this is why you're in the MAC, right? I mean, you're in the MAC to build programs and to build wins, and you can turn things around in a quick year if you just go smack somebody else in the mouth. So let's see what they can do.
All right, good point.
Bath, you got me Bath -3 versus Ottawa Glandor. So
flip.
Yeah, it's really nice of you to pick these games that are super easy to pick. OG's playing better defense. They're playing better. Bath's hot. Their offense is hot, but they can't stop a cold. I mean, I don't know. What do I say on that? I'll take the offense. So I'll take the offense -3, and that means Bath.
All right.
So Fort Loramie versus Spencerville. I'm just going to use my eyes. My eyes were fresh. My concern would be if they turn it over, but I'll lay the 17. I'll take Fort Loramie to score a bunch of points in the air.
All right. Let's see. What do you got here for me? Oh, you talking about, man, get them easy. St. Mary's Van Wert, -25. All right, look.
You can tell we do a lot of prep before we do this as we sit here and mumble and stumble.
Yeah, if we were more polished at this, we'd have these ready at our fingertips, right? So
we still need a producer. That would help.
No kidding. All right, St. Mary's Van Wert. St. Mary's -25. That's a lot of points in a game that
at Van Wert, right?
At Van Wert. Van Wert, here's the thing. Van Wert is going to throw the ball. We know that they love putting the ball into the air. They haven't done a great job of it lately, but what do incompletions do? They stop the clock. If you're going to turn the ball over and you're going to give it to St. Mary's, you're going to let them have a lot of extra possessions, extra time. Give me St. Mary's in 25. Give me the Rough Riders. They get things going back offensively.
I made this one. This one's easier, right?
New Bremen -30 against Fort Recovery. Fort Recovery coming to the Cardinals. A huge spread. Matt Game. Give me New Bremen. I like New Bremen. Give me the points. And because
you're laying the points.
I'm laying the points, excuse me. Yep, -30. And then Finley at Springfield Holland, -39. What is wrong with you?
I picked this one because this is where I did my student teaching. Springfield Holland was where I did my student teaching. Shout out to Mr. Lewis, Sonny Lewis. He's hopefully, he's definitely retired. But
look, at this point, I've taken all the other blowouts. I'm not going to change now. Give me Finley -39.
There it is.
Win big. Maybe this is the week you crawl back into contention.
Let's hope,
we'll see.
Who really cares? Because I'm not good.
All right, moving on. Time to take a look at our upset/surprise prediction of the week, and is brought to you by the Healthy Kids Running Series in Lima. They are a national nonprofit organization that engages communities and families by providing an inclusive youth running experience for kids 2 to 14 years old, while inspiring them to believe in themselves and lead an active and healthy lifestyle. To find more information, follow their Facebook page, Healthy Kids Running Series Lima OH, or email limaoh@healthykidsrs.com.
Do you know the great part about this is these people that are out there, running, they can actually start to run now past 9 a.m.
Oh, I know, it's cooling off. Oh my
degrees.
gosh, it's so nice. It is so nice. All right, so taking ahead, I'm going to go first here on this one, Matt, because you know what? I believe in my
You
upset.
teased it.
I teased
it.
I am going to go with the Kenton and Defiance game. Kenton coming into this one is a 20-point underdog. They come in with a 1-4 record on the year, and they're facing a Defiance team that seems to be hitting their stride. However, I do think there is more behind these numbers. When you look at a little bit deeper, right? Defiance is currently in the bottom third of the league in total defense, is at the bottom of the league in penalty yardage. They are a -2 in the turnover ratio. Kenton, on the other hand, they are tops in the league in total offense. They have scored 35 or more in 4 of their 5 games. I expect this one to be a 1-score game, and don't be surprised if Kenton pulls off the upset. It's also, if I harken you back 12 months.
Harken
you back.
Harken me where,
young man? 12 months. Elida last year, coming off of losing their quarterback. They're going through a rough patch. They're in week 7. I know we're a week early, but last year they go and face a Defiance team. Everybody thought Defiance would win that game. Elida goes in. They pull off the upset. This has a lot of that feel to me. I think Kenton can get this one done.
There it is. All right. Well, for me, I looked at the Elida Salina game. Elida comes out after they put up all those points. Amari Wash has his game, but they're supposed to get smacked in the mouth by 26 this week. Ooh. I don't know. This is a storied rivalry, Nate. 52 times they have played. Who has the advantage?
That's a good question.
That's why I asked it.
Salina.
Thank you.
And I only say that because I have a 50-50 chance. I honestly have no idea who.
Salina has the advantage by 1 game.
Do they really?
Yeah. So by 1 game. So this is a pretty storied rivalry.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm sure the Lima Masters is going to be hyping this one up this week because these Bulldogs need to get back on the winning side, and I'm picking them to cover the spread.
Going real far out on a limb on that one, are we?
Hey,
I picked Kenton to win the game, man.
I know. Well,
All right,
I was just telling
whatever.
you. I'm not
Hey,
saying
no, it's a good one. I think you're right. We'll see. I think it's a big week for Elida in the fact
it's all about
that
which Elida team's going to show up.
exactly, and that's what
I mean,
are you believing that you are who you were last week, or are you
correct.
going to be like, oh well, that wasn't good enough, and then the kids kind of fall off because they're high school kids, man.
That's
Like,
right.
It's understandable.
Why you play the game.
Yep. So, all right. Well, we'll see how those play out next week. Moving on, time for good call, bad call, our officiating feedback of the week. It is brought to you by Mac Q Property,
This one's
serving
gonna
Allen
be
County
fun.
and surrounding counties since 2006. The best view is with Mac Q.
You know what I like about this one? We're going to have to make this a little interactive. You're going to have to hop online and you're going to have to come check out our Facebook page because when
we don't
you do, you're going to see something that you're going to be like, huh?
Yeah, it's confusing, right?
I'll tell you what. I don't know. I watched it right away. I thought for sure. What was confusing for me when the guy in the striped shirts came in and made his call.
Catch.
I'm like,
No catch.
what?
So, we decided to get away from local on this week, right? Because I think I don't want people to think we're beating up on local officials. Because, as Matt said a couple of weeks ago, he feels bad for the officials. They're his friends. He enjoys the officials now. And so we decided to go out. I actually found something on Facebook that was getting shared, and it's not from around here, but it was a call from Friday night where two teams, they were right going into the end zone, end of the game, pass comes through.
That was the end of the game, too.
Yeah. Pass comes in. It gets bobbled. Looks like the kid catches it to me, stretches out for the touchdown. There's some confusion all of a sudden. And then you see the official coming in from the near sideline waving no catch. The video was slowed down. I could see it being not a touchdown. I do not see how that is not a catch.
I don't know. Here's my thing. And it's through the eyes of the beholder, right? And the part that we can't just emphasize enough is it's real time.
Yeah.
And the thing that I always am so concerned is we've dug deeper in this, and I've tried to look at this in a more reflecting lens versus just getting pissed off after something doesn't go my way after a game, is honestly, there's 6 of them out there, you know what I mean? But they have these like layers of where I've talked to a couple officials and they have these layers of what their responsibility is and this versus that. And I'm telling you right now, this is a catch. I mean, this kid he stays with it. The interesting part for me is, Nate, do you think if he wouldn't have made, as he's catching it, in my eyes, and he transitions to literally diving to put the ball into the end zone.
They say he didn't have possession.
Yeah, it's just so quick.
Maybe. But just for confirmation's sake, if I'm on my knees and I catch the ball, it's a completion, right? Like, it's not like I'm down if my knees are down, right? Like, I can catch the ball. Because that's the only other thing I could possibly think of is that, because this was in Illinois, and I didn't go and look up the Illinois rules, but the only thing I could possibly think of is that for some reason, being on your knees and catching a ball makes it an incomplete pass. But I don't see how that could. What about if you dive? What if you slide to catch it? Like, I can't possibly imagine that's actually a thing. So the only other thing I could think of is that the guy was trying to say that the kid never had possession as he transitioned to reach and hit the goal line kind of all at the same time. Well, now, I definitely thought he was down at the 1. I don't think it was a touchdown. I think it's pretty clear he caught it short. He had a guy on him.
Ooh, I think he got it.
Yeah, see, I don't. I think
the ball breaks the plane.
I think that's the only controversy to me as far as like an official. Definitely, I don't see any world where that is an incomplete pass.
I just don't. Hey, our goal is to try to give you guys something fun and interesting to look at, and again, I think you're gonna have a good time looking at this one if you're a football fan and reviewing whether or not it was the correct call or not.
Well, and look at it from 2 ways, right? Because tell us if you think it's a catch, and if you do think it's a catch, whether or not you think it's a touchdown or not. Because sitting here, we have 2 different opinions.
Yeah,
I watched the video. I think he's short. You think it's no kidding. Yeah, we disagree. Weird. Didn't see that one coming.
All right, my friend. Well,
hey, man, that's another show, man. In the can, ready to wrap it up. I don't know. What'd you think about week 5, bro?
For me, it just continues to watch these as they start to sort themselves out through the conferences, and we start to see some of these kids continue to, put huge stats up, and it's just a lot of fun. I love this sport. It's just a blast.
So don't forget what Matt had told you guys earlier. We are going to change some of the way that we push some stuff out. You're still going to be able to get this on Spotify, Apple Podcast. It's on Amazon.
But now
it's on all those platforms. Going to be on YouTube now. So we're going to try to do this a little different when we edit it. We're going to section it out. So if you don't want to listen to the entire hour after you've listened to the entire hour, we understand. You can go back and review your favorite parts without having listened to everything.
Or bonus coverage.
That's right. And then don't forget to check out our interviews. We're going to try to get more kids on. Hopefully maybe get some coaches on. We got our officiating thing happening. So hopefully YouTube will start blowing up for us as well. So please go check out our YouTube page, the Varsity Locker Room on YouTube. And hit us up on all our socials. We're on Instagram. We're on the X. We're on Facebook. Please, we love the interaction. We love everybody coming in, checking out what we're doing, and interacting with you guys. We appreciate everything as always. Bro? It's coming. I didn't know you usually have a lot to say.
Oh, let's go. Get us out of here.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap up another edition of the Varsity Locker Room podcast. Thanks for checking us out, and we'll see you next week.
Have a good week.